On the outskirts of a small town stands an abandoned train station, known to locals as the Ghost Station. Legend has it that the ghost of an unfortunate driver wanders the platforms, trapped between dimensions. A group of intrepid investigators decide to spend a night in this forgotten place, without suspecting the dark truth that awaits. A paranormal investigator, Martin, gathers his team at the entrance to the ghost station. Among them are Clara, an expert in paranormal phenomena, and Daniel, a skeptic convinced that everything has a logical explanation. Upon entering, the group is greeted by a stony silence. The worn tracks creak under their footsteps as they explore the station covered in dust and mystery. Martin tells the tragic story of the driver, Pedro, whose train derailed on a stormy night, taking the lives of many passengers with it. Since then, his spirit wanders in search of redemption. The team decides to begin the investigation on Platform 13, where the apparitions are rumored to be most frequent. The temperature suddenly drops and an incomprehensible whisper creeps into the wind. Daniel jokes about the legend, but suddenly, a shadow materializes before them. It is the figure of a man in a driver's uniform, his face blurred by eternal suffering. Pedro's ghostly lament echoes throughout the station, shaking the investigators. Clara feels intense cold and swears she saw faces in the shadows. The lights flash and the doors of the closed cars open by themselves. The investigators realize that something more than just a specter is stalking them. Cautiously, they explore the empty carriages, each with its own atmosphere charged with tragedy. Fleeting images of the train's final passengers haunt their minds. In a wrecked carriage, the team experiences a temporal echo of the accident. Heartbreaking screams and the roar of metal echo around them, transporting them to the fatal moment. Clara feels a connection with Pedro's spirit and begins to channel her emotions. Visions of the past become more vivid, revealing buried secrets. Suddenly, the sky darkens and a thunderstorm breaks out over the station. Lightning illuminates the figure of the driver, who approaches slowly, his eyes full of pain. In a dusty corner, they find an old book with the names of the deceased passengers. Each name seems to whisper an untold story. In a dusty corner, they find an old book with the names of the deceased passengers. Each name seems to whisper an untold story. In the waiting room, they discover an old jukebox that begins to play a melancholic song. It's the song that Pedro used to hum before the accident. In a broken mirror, Daniel sees his own face distorted by despair. He feels a pressure in his chest and incomprehensible whispers surround him. Suddenly, they hear the distant roar of a train. The lights flash and the tracks shake. Pedro's ghost train approaches, bringing with it a sense of doom. The group finds an ancient door at the end of a tunnel. Clara, guided by an invisible force, decides to cross it, disappearing. Clara finds Pedro's spirit and discovers that his soul is trapped in a pact with the Grim Reaper. Pedro reveals the only way to break the curse. The team faces the decision of whether or not to free Pedro. As they debate, the station shakes violently, as if reality itself is about to collapse. Bravely, Clara performs the ritual to free Pedro. The ghost train disappears into the darkness, taking with it the curse that haunted the station for decades. After Pedro's release, the station falls silent. The storm dissipates, revealing a starry sky. Clara, exhausted but satisfied, feels the pressure in the air dissolve. Clara returns to her companions, who receive her with amazement. The supernatural energy that once saturated the place seems to have faded. Pedro's spirit, now free, manifests one last time to thank the investigators. With a smile, he fades into darkness, finally finding peace. The station, freed from the curse, begins to come back to life. Lights that were off for decades flicker, and stopped clocks tick back to time. The group decides to leave the station as the sun rises on the horizon. They leave behind a place transformed by the liberation of a lost soul. On the platform, they find the footprints of the passengers who lost their lives in the accident. Each brand seems to tell a story of sadness and hope. Before leaving, Clara silently says goodbye to the station, thanking Pedro for allowing her to unravel the truth behind the legend. Returning to civilization, Martine, Clara and Daniel write a detailed report of the experience, recording the liberation of the station and Pedro's spirit. News of the liberation of the ghost station spreads through the town, and the community begins to revitalize itself with a new positive energy. Somewhere between dimensions, Pedro experiences a spiritual rebirth, finding the peace he was denied for so long. The team, marked by the supernatural experience, faces its own changes. Daniel, previously a skeptic, admits that there are things in the universe that go beyond reason. Each member of the team begins to have revealing dreams, where Pedro thanks them again and gives them messages of hope. The group realizes that, although the mystery of the station has been solved, the world still holds unexplored secrets, and an appreciation for the unknown grows within them. The local newspaper publishes an article about the liberation of the ghost station, bringing attention back to this forgotten corner. The team's success attracts the attention of other paranormal investigators, who search the now liberated station for answers. Despite the liberation, the legend of the ghost station lives on, becoming a story told at campfires and gatherings. Researchers begin to notice echoes of the past in other places, suggesting that there are more souls seeking liberation. In a dream, Pedro thanks Clara for keeping her promise to free him, and reveals to her that he is at peace. Martine, Clara and Daniel officially close the paranormal case, satisfied that they have provided closure to a story that tormented the station and their souls for too long. Although the investigation has concluded, researchers feel an unbreakable connection to the station and the secrets that lie beneath its surface. Clara, in a gesture of respect, leaves a photograph of Pedro on the platform as a last souvenir. She feels that, somehow, he will always be present in that place. During a meditation session, Clara has a vision of the station's future. She sees happy families strolling along the platforms, indicating that peace has finally returned to the place. Martine, Clara and Daniel are invited to a paranormal conference to share their experience. The audience is captivated by the story of the liberation of the ghost station. Years later, the station becomes a historical and tourist place. The corner where Pedro was freed is remembered as a key point in the history of Vallecillo. On a final visit to the station, the team says goodbye with gratitude and hope. As they walk away, they feel a soft wind that seems to carry with it Peter's eternal gratitude.